Welcome to Life Brand Management. It's your girl, BC Starks, aka Brittany. Hey, and I am back with another episode of my lovely podcast, which has been more of a therapy session than it has been me sharing. But today I wanted to talk about the importance of understanding perception and the role it plays in the manifestation process. The reason I want to talk about this is because I recently was faced with the appearance of what was, at the time, I thought was a challenge. I thought I was being faced with something that was difficult because, according to my senses, it was a reality that is not in alignment with what I truly desire. And at least that was the perspective that I was seeing it from, right? And part of what a lot of us will run up against when we are on our journeys of just living life, and especially as we awaken to our ability and our actual creative power as creators of our realities, we will run up against what Neville Goddard calls the old man, or we'll run up against our actual program. Dr. Joe Dispenza is really good about pointing this out in his teachings as well, that as you grow more aware of the eye behind the eye, who you've been all this time, as you grow more aware of that version of you, and you start to understand who you really are, right? Because there's the program that you've been running on, and then there's the inner you that somehow knows that things can be different. Even if you don't understand how you're going to get to that different, there's an inner version of you that understands, hey, the way that I am truly, right, has to be different from what I'm experiencing, because if it weren't, I wouldn't feel such turmoil or, such resistance to this thing that I'm experiencing. And so I, was having a moment. I was actually having a moment, and I was actually recording a podcast. I recorded a podcast a couple days ago that I did not publish yet, because the reason I didn't publish it is that I was actually really emotional. I was perceiving my reality as something in my reality as being a huge challenge, a huge obstacle to what it is I truly desire to create in my personal life. And if I were relying on my senses, my eyes, my ears, my, taste, touch, feel, if I were relying only on my senses, to the senses, it looked like my reality in that particular area was not changing. And that is the trickery of the program. That's the trickery of our practice behaviors and our practice thinking and emotions, is that because you've practiced those things for so long, and it has created your personal identity in that moment, it feels really real. It feels so real, and it feels fixated, and it feels unchangeable, and it feels, I'm saying all the words that pretty much describe what it feels to feel permanent, right? It feels permanent. And that could be really discouraging, especially when you're on this journey of learning how you are a creator and learning how to manifest your reality. Those are the moments that we have when we feel discouraged or doubt or fear, or we feel like we're not getting what it is that we intend to make a reality or to have an experience for. And so I was having that moment, and as I was having that moment, I somehow knew that my emotional being in that moment, I was actually crying. I was in and out of tears. And this was during me recording the podcast, by the way. But and that's why I haven't published it, because I'm still debating if I even want to put it out there. But I think I'm going to, because I want you guys to really see that, like, you're not alone when you have a hard day. I want you guys to really see that. And I want you guys to know that you're not alone in that, because the beautiful thing of me recording that process is that by the time the podcast was ending and I was concluding, I was in better emotional state. I was on a higher vibrating emotional state because I talked myself literally from feeling awful, feeling like, my circumstance was so permanent that I was extra emotional. And then I was dispelling all of the false truths. I like to call them the practice thoughts of fear and separation. I was dispelling those things one by one until by the end of the podcast, I had brought myself to the space of my personal truth, which is that we are powerful creators and there's nothing that will be denied us, and that circumstances do not matter, and that it doesn't matter how many times you fall down. What matters is that you continue to pick yourself back up and get back in alignment and get back on the path. Whenever you fall off, however many times you fall off, it does not matter. You will eventually make manifest whatever it is you're trying to bring about, because that constant getting back up is the practice. That is the actual practice. You don't wake up and become a master just because you read a book. You don't wake up and all of a sudden you're on the same playing field as a Neville Goddard who's practiced for years and years and years because you heard a lecture on YouTube. You wake up every single day and you wash, rinse, and repeat. Right? You wash, rinse, and repeat. And over time, that becomes the new process. And over time, that becomes the new program. So you're overriding that old program every single time you get back up and persist in whatever it is that you're making manifest, even when you have a hard day. So for me, my shift came in over the course of a few days. So I recorded that podcast where I was super emotional. And then I had what I thought was a very interesting turn of events, a challenge the following day. But that challenge ended up making me realize that my perception is what is dictating my thoughts and my emotional state. And so because of that, if I shift my perception, I will have a shift in corresponding thoughts and emotions. And so it just so happened that the way that everything played out, I started to feel fearful in my reality. And I'm not going to go into detail of what exactly it was, but I'm just talking about in general, like my feeling state. When the challenge came up, I started to feel fearful in my reality, and all these thoughts of fear started coming up. A worst case scenario started playing out. And what I admire about this journey is that the more you learn how to gain or grow your self-awareness, and for me that happens through journaling, that happens through meditation, it happens through just paying attention to my thoughts and emotions. And that is what awareness is. So the more you grow your awareness, the more you're able to catch and observe whatever you've been thinking and observe the way those thoughts make you feel. That's the journey. That's the practice. And as I was practicing that, I started to realize, wait a minute, I don't have to buy into the thoughts that I'm thinking. These thoughts don't make me feel good. I want to think a better thought. I want to feel better. And so I just shifted my attention to one of Neville's amazing techniques that I love and I've been practicing with my family lately is the Isn't It Wonderful technique. And if you are not familiar with that, you can definitely look it up. I talk about it as one of the manifesting techniques in my online course, which I'm going to save for the end to make the announcement. But my online course is something that I talk about multiple manifestation techniques that have worked for me. And Isn't It Wonderful is one of those techniques that just really puts you in the state of the wish fulfilled. At least it does for me. And so I just shifted my thoughts to, isn't it wonderful? And I kind of keep that statement general. I don't really add much else onto that statement, because for me, when I say, isn't it wonderful? And I just stay with that and I continue to repeat it, I feel in my body what it feels like to just feel wonderful. And then from there, my imagination goes wild in terms of the subject area. So when I don't put anything on that statement, I let my imagination do the creativity and project images in my mind of what's wonderful. And for me, that can go, from my career, a conversation with a loved one, my romantic relationship, my friendships, maybe money coming in. I just let my imagination run wild. And that statement really puts me in the state of experiencing the wonderfulness of whatever I'm imagining. And so I did that. And as I did that, I shifted my mood entirely. And it went from complaining about whatever was happening in my reality to literally just being grateful that I could be a blessing in that moment to whatever it was I was facing. Whether it was, frustration about a new job or not getting a job soon enough, or if frustration about anything that you're dealing with a loved one. Like, if you shift into, instead of looking at the thing as a problem, look at how you can actually be a blessing, or how your experience in that can actually be a blessing. Look at the character that it's built in you for you now to recognize, hey, this can change, right? But it can change for the better because I'm shifting the way that I'm looking at it. I'm looking at how beneficial it's been to me and the people involved. In whatever way that may be, guys, one of the things you're going to be trained to do is look for the silver lining in reality. You're not going to be trained to constantly look at the problem or look for a problem, because what we learn in this manifestation community is about our subconscious mind and how it works. Whenever you are fixated on anything as a problem, whatever you give an emotional charge to, as a problem, your subconscious mind is naturally going to scan your reality for evidence of that. And you're always going to find evidence. You know that saying that goes, be careful what you look for, you just might get it, or be careful what you wish for, you just might get it. That's because the way our subconscious mind works is that it works to keep you safe and it works to make you right. Those are the two things that you ever need to remember about your subconscious mind, is that it works to make you safe, and keep you safe, and it works to make you right. So with that being said, if you are someone, for example, who's super insecure and you think that you're not attractive, let's say you think you're ugly, right? That's a terrible state of mind to have, but it happens. You never know. If you think you're ugly, you are naturally going to feel awful about that. You're going to look in the mirror. You're probably going to start saying bad things to yourself, which triggers negative emotions of sadness and feeling unwanted and unworthy. And from that state, that emotional state, because the emotion is the key, whatever you emotionally charge your thoughts with, that is what your subconscious mind is going to scan your reality to attract back to you. So because you're in this insecure state, and you're feeling these ways about yourself, you're automatically going to be insecure when you're around other people. You're automatically going to identify any kind of thing, any kind of gesture that someone makes as validation of your own insecurity. For example, if you feel ugly, then somebody could look at you and they may not even be looking at you. They might look in your direction and stare a little bit too long. And all of a sudden you're like, oh my God, what is this person looking at? Or are they thinking I'm ugly? What are they thinking? All these negative thoughts. You're going to project your thoughts onto them as if they're thinking what you think about yourself. And guys, I'm explaining this like this because we see examples of this every single day in our realities, or everybody knows somebody that plays this role, right? Or you do it yourself. You may recognize yourself in this example, but you might then start to think, oh, why is this person staring at me? So then all of a sudden you say out loud, what you looking at? What are you looking at? Right? And the person might actually not be looking at you, or they may not even be looking at you thinking anything negative. They may be admiring something that you're wearing, or they may be admiring something about you. But because you're coming from that negative space of insecurity and you have these charged up emotions behind your negative thoughts about yourself, you are drawing in instances where you just made yourself right in your mind. You're thinking that person is judging you, when in actuality, that may not be the case, right? But that's how our subconscious minds work. It works to make us right. And it also works to keep us safe, because the same could be said if you're thinking very fearful thoughts. Your subconscious mind doesn't know right from wrong. It doesn't know good from bad. It just knows whatever you charge emotionally. So it goes into play even when you say, oh, I don't want certain things to happen. I don't want this to happen. I don't want this to happen. Well, your repetition of not wanting something to happen, your subconscious mind doesn't hear the not part. It just hears, oh, happen. And boom, next thing you know, it happens. So guys, I'm not the teacher of subconscious mind concepts. I am an avid learner of it, and I'm starting to understand and grow awareness for my own subconscious mind and how it works. So I definitely recommend that you guys read some books on the subconscious mind. There are plenty of amazing authors that talk about this, and I also share about it in my course as well, some of my favorite books. But to take it back to the main topic of the video, of today's podcast, is that perception is everything. You know, you have to understand that your perception can influence whether or not you persist, right? So the topic is actually persisting. I keep saying perception, but yes, perception is a major part of whether or not you persist, because if your perception is fixated on the negative and you don't have the awareness or the muscle to shift your awareness into better thoughts, or shift your awareness and attention onto a subject matter that's less emotionally charged, right? With negativity. If you don't have the muscle to shift, you got to start practicing that muscle. You got to start challenging yourself to say, hey, now that I'm learning about these things, now that I'm understanding that I'm not a victim in life, that I do have some influence over what happens to me and how I show up, I'm going to challenge myself to challenge the program, to challenge the things that I've practiced, to challenge the way in which I identify myself. Challenge my self-concept. And this is another word that, you know, if you're new to these terminologies, self-concept is pretty much the way that you see yourself in relationship to everything and everyone in your world. And that self-concept is very different from subject to subject. I've talked about in previous podcasts that you can be super successful, or view yourself as super successful in one area, but feel super insecure in another. It is very possible, because humans are very complex beings. And so, and we have varying relationships in our lives, and we have relationships with everything and everyone in our lives. We have relationships with money. We have relationships with our material possessions. We have relationships with, the way we see ourselves in terms of success. We have a relationship with people. We have relationships with ourselves. And those different areas or topic areas, our concept of self can vary. It could be very different. And so when you understand that, everything comes from your self-concept, the way you perceive your life. We talk about perception, the way you perceive your life, the way you perceive your relationships is all out of your self-concept. And that can also influence your ability to persist. So I say all of that to say that when it comes to persisting, if you want to actually get the result that you desire, you cannot give up. You cannot give up. You can pivot, you can pause, you can adjust, but you cannot quit, because those of us who experience success in anything that we put our minds to, we are only as successful as our willingness to continue until we reach the finish line. Like Neville says, persist until it becomes a reality. Somebody says, well, how long should I practice certain techniques, or how long do I need to affirm for what it is I want to manifest? And the question in and of itself, the fact that you're even asking that question pretty much suggests that you are ready to throw in the towel, or you have a lot of doubt that you've built up over time with your program. And that's the area that that's actually the indication that that's where you need to put in more work. And when I say work, I don't necessarily mean labor. I just mean grow your awareness to when you're doing the thing that sabotages you. Grow your awareness to when you are operating from the program that no longer serves you. And as you become aware of when you're doing that thing that you don't want to be doing anymore because it's getting in the way, you can then charge yourself with the choice of shifting that perception, shifting the way you're seeing it, trying out the technique that I mentioned. Isn't it wonderful? And seeing how that works for you. And there's no time frame, guys. Time is an illusion. As Neville would say, the manifestation is complete instantaneously. It already exists. So there is no time when it comes to materializing in this reality. The only thing that makes it appear to be time is however long it takes you to shift into the state of feeling as though your wish is already fulfilled, acting as though your wish is already fulfilled, being the version of yourself who already has that which you desire, showing up in your reality as if it's already done. However long that takes you to get into that character and embody that version of yourself, that is what is the determining factor of time. Because when you're acting it out, and when I say acting, I use that term loosely because some people might think that, might hear that in a joking way, but it's not. Life is literally, we are wearing multiple hats in our lives. We are wearing multiple titles in our lives. We are sisters and brothers. We are siblings. We are children of our parents. We are co-workers at our jobs. We are wearing multiple titles, and each title carries a character, right? You're probably one person at home versus another person at work versus another person when you're with your siblings or your cousins versus another person when you're with your parents. Like, there's different aspects and complexities of our personality. So, you are acting as though you are already the version of yourself who has what you desire, because with that act comes the corresponding thoughts and emotions. If you are embodying the person who already has what you want, you're going to carry yourself in a certain kind of way, in a particular way. You're not going to be looking in your reality for evidence because you're going to already feel as though you already have it. I don't need to look for something I already have. I don't need to look for my car that's parked in my driveway already. I don't need to look for that. I don't need to look for the credit card that's in my wallet because I just trust that it's there because that's where I put it last night, right? I already know I got it. When you know that you have the thing that you already are looking to manifest, when you know that you're already in possession of it, there's a certain way that you govern yourself. So tap into that. Tap into that character. Tap into that identity, that self-concept. What does that version of you think like? What would that version of you do or say? How would that version of you carry themselves? What kinds of conversations would they have? What actions would they be inspired to take if they are already that version, right? Like if you're already that version, what inspired action would you take? And this is the true embodiment of the state. And so when you're in that state, you don't need to worry about time. It's not about time. Time doesn't even exist. You're too busy being. I don't need to worry about how long it's going to take me to feel like the owner of the car that I already drive, right? Think about it in a logical way and then pull back and say, okay, if I'm, really applying this stuff, this is what it really means, right? And so I can recall multiple times, and you can too, when you embodied what it is that you wanted, and the rollout of events in your reality led you to that end result. I remember when I entered a competition that I just declared from day one that I was going to win. And so when I declared that I was going to win and there was no way I was going to lose that competition, my identity as a winner literally led me down a series of events where I was inspired to take certain action. If I know that I'm a winner, I started practicing my lines, my pitch, and I started looking in the mirror and making sure that I was feeling like I was already a winner. And I was, tweaking my approach. And I was just doing the things that I felt like a winner did. And lo and behold, when the competition time rolled around, I showed up as the winner that I had been practicing to be that entire time. And wouldn't you know that I ended up winning the competition? I ended up winning first place. That's not a coincidence, guys. Pay attention to athletes. Pay attention to some of the top performing athletes, or anybody who speaks on any modicum of success that they've had. They saw themselves as that version of themselves first in their minds. And then they said, because I'm this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. All the things that are in alignment with that identity, with that self-concept. I'm going to do all the things. And this is where a lot of people in the manifestation community are confused about whether or not to take action, or when should I take action? When should I do this? When should I do that? It's not a matter of when or whether or not you should take action. If you are embodying the identity of the person that has the life that you desire right now, or if you want to break it down and not just encompass it into the life that you desire, maybe the career that you desire right now, what does that version of you do? And you would naturally do those things. If I am embodying the version of me that is extremely physically fit and takes care of my body, I'm not sitting around asking, what inspired action should I take? Is it okay if I do this or do that? The thing that you want to pay attention to is, where's your emotional state? Are you feeling like the one, or are you feeling defeated? Because if you're feeling defeated, whatever action you take from that space, you're going to be defeated in it, because that's who you're embodying. That's the identity that you are choosing in that moment. But if you're feeling like the one who's a conqueror and the one who actually has the body that you desire, you're going to be inspired to do the things that someone like that does. And I'm going to guess that that's going to be get up and go to the gym consistently, stick to your meal plans, or even if you're having a slow week, or you fall off a day or two, you're going to get back up and work out. Again, you're not going to judge yourself. You're not going to beat up on yourself. You're going to just continue to conduct yourself as the one who has that physical physique that you desire. And that's showing up every day, doing the inspired actions that make sense for that identity. And that is how you persist, guys. You persist in understanding, hey, I can show up in my life in a way that I don't have to be a victim. I can show up in a way that trusts that I am in alignment and that I'm manifesting that which I set out to help materialize in my reality. And I'm doing that moment to moment with the choices that I'm making. And I'm doing that even when I have a hard day and I'm not so perfect in my thinking, or I'm not always maintaining alignment with the version of me that has it. I'm still doing it. I'm still on the path, because I have the awareness to know, okay, today is just a minor setback. I'm going to pick myself back up and tomorrow's going to be better. That shift in perception is key when it comes to persisting. That shift in perception is what's going to drive you and keep you on the path. And the more you practice that, you get better, guys. You get so good at it over time, because you're practicing, you're showing up. It's like a muscle. It's not going to work itself, right? This is what persisting is. This is the importance of persisting. You will reach the finish line in the direction of what you consistently practice, because you're building a new program. You're embodying a new version of yourself. And the more you persist and practice in that direction, you're going to get a result. You're going to show up different than you used to. And it happens gradually. You won't even notice you've changed. By going to the gym every single day for 90 days, I wasn't noticing my physique change from day to day. The changes were subtle. But if I look at the picture that I took on day 1 versus day 90, those are very different results. How I started is not how I finished. How I felt when I started is not how I felt when I finished. I literally became a different version of me over time, but it was the consistency. And again, I didn't have perfect days. I skipped some days. I picked myself up. I shifted my perception from, I don't feel like it, I don't feel like working out, to, you know what? I didn't feel like working out today. I'm going to take a break today, but tomorrow I'm going to go hard. Or maybe I need 2 days to break. I'm going to break these 2 days and then I'm going to get back in my routine. And guess what? I still got my results because I did not quit. You only fail to manifest when you give up. It's not about time. Some things will take the amount of time that it takes for you to lower your guards, lower your resistance on that subject matter. And that's just what it is. However long it takes you to override your program, that's the time it takes to manifest. It's not about time itself. It's about your inner change, your inner work to override the program. And that's it. That's the importance of persisting. That's what it means to persist until you're in. And it's not a perfect process, but you got this, guys. I know, because I have to pick myself up every single day. And I have to remind myself, especially on the hard days, that whatever thoughts you're thinking from the program, they're not permanent. You don't have to accept it as final. You're going to still have that manifestation play out. This might be a difficult moment, and that's okay. Feel the feeling. But guess what? By tomorrow, or however long it takes you to get over that emotion, you're going to be feeling better again, and you're going to pick yourself back up, and you're going to get right back in alignment. And guess what? You're going to get your results. You will. You just got to believe. Radical trust, guys. That's what this is about. The name of the game of life is faith and radical trust. That is how you manifest or materialize something out of nothing. Radical trust and faith. That's all I got for us today, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. I hope that what I shared today is a message that can resonate with whoever is listening. Again, I am your manifesting mentor. I teach from personal experience and just how I am able to process my own life. And I know that I am not the only one. So I share my journey because it gives me great pleasure to know that I'm not the only one. And we're in this together, guys. Let's get it. Let's get it. Let's get it. And I think I'll record another episode before the holidays. But if not, I want to wish everyone who's tuned in a happy holidays. This is 2022, December 20th. December 20th is when I'm recording this. And if this is well past that time when you're listening to this, never mind this comment. I feel like the message is timeless. So thanks so much, guys, for tuning in. And until next time, toodles.